Welcome, everyone. We're going to be discussing the new Black Widow movie that just came out the other day. So this should be fun. First Marvel movie in about 2 years, a year and a half, something like that. So
2 years since the last Marvel movie that came out in theaters, guys.
crazy.
We both watched it on opening night, which is really nice.
Exactly. You got the nice comic book from seeing it in IMAX.
I did. Did
My
you see those
sister,
comic books?
I did not see him at all. So,
Well, maybe I'll show it to you by the end.
okay. It'll be like this versions of comic book show off.
Yeah,
Okay. And my sister bought like the collectible tin, popcorn tin. So I
I
got
have it
something.
as well.
Do you?
I
Nice.
do.
Nice.
I'm the best.
So you got best of both. Oh, I'm so jealous. And the tin isn't even mine. It's Emily's, my sister. So
Well, I mean, you can still see it.
I can still see it. Yeah, I have the Endgame one right there.
Now I'm jealous because you have
Oh,
that
ha 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 ha.
one. It's whatever.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
So do you want to do the opening thoughts for this movie?
I want you to go. Well, if you're comfortable going first, I'd like to hear what you have to say because you said you had a lot to talk about. So.
So I have notes.
Oh, jeez.
I went home immediately after I watched the movie. I went home and I just scribbled down as much as I could remember that I thought was like noteworthy and
Mhm.
just scribbled it down.
Nice. Okay, then we're definitely having you start.
So my first word for this movie is the first note I have, which is Marvel is back.
Marvel's back.
Back,
Marvel is
baby.
back. We need to put like that on like the above or below or something or Marvel's back.
The reason why I say that is because I was in the first showing of the first IMAX of the opening night premiere.
Wow.
And there was just a bunch of people there and everything. And then once like the Marvel Studios logo started to play, everybody was like, "Yeah!" And we were like, "I miss this.
Home sweet
This
home.
is fun."
Uh-huh. It's like we never left.
It does seem short and long at the same time, so I don't doubt that a lot of people were like, "Yeah, it's finally back." Even though we've been seeing 3 series where they've been doing every single episode with the Marvel Studios logo and everything, it
It's
still feels different now that it's like we're in the theater and we get to see an actual movie for the first time.
mhm. The atmosphere is important.
It was different, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's my first thing. What's your first word?
That's a good first word. I wish I thought of it. Um let's see my first word I think is it was different. I thought it was different than like Marvel movies before, like pre-pandemic Marvel movies. I feel like
Mhm.
it felt more like one of the series, just the way it was
Mm.
written. Um, so it kind of seems like they're going in a new direction with the feel of the movies and stuff. That's
Yeah,
my first word.
definitely.
The feel is a
Especially
little
since it's like phase 4 and everything.
mhm, exactly like a good kickoff to it.
Even though it was
Semi
technically
kickoff.
a prequel that happened in between Civil War and Infinity War, it still didn't feel like it was part of the regular universe. It was like we're in this next phase and this is the beginning of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's cool.
So I think most of my notes are in chronological order. Now I'm not gonna go in like chronological order of like the plot to just conserve time, but I'm just gonna these are like the main points, a whole
Okay.
thing of main points that I have for like all these.
Okay. I think you should lead it then, and we'll
Yeah.
go off of those.
All right. So the first point that I have is that the actress who played the young Black Widow looks so similar to Scarlett Johansson.
Right? I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I was just like, wow, like either there's a different girl who has a different face and they just like transplanted Scarlett Johansson's like younger face like they did for Captain America, or
Mhm,
this girl really looks like her.
mhm. I thought the exact same thing. I was like so surprised.
Mm.
They did a good job.
And I think this was a nice, interesting way to kick it off because like we're finding out about her life that she had being with this family that she was with and everything. Next note I actually say is Shield is bad.
Yep. Yeah, right? Um, and that whole sequence, when I saw the shield logo, I'm like, huh. It's weird to see it from like the opposite perspective,
Yeah,
finally, right?
because we now know that Shield is bad, and we know that's the bad guys. And I don't think we've actually associated them with the bad guys because we see like Black Widow as being the good person in this series.
Mhm.
So we see her as being the good person, his family as being the good people, but like, are they the good people? And are the Shield the good people? It's kind of like that weird dynamic of like, we know stuff from the future now that we
Yeah.
didn't know about before,
Mhm.
but we're not gonna be like, yeah, Shield is like, and it's like, wait, Hydra, forgot about Shield.
Yeah, no one's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Captain America.
We're gonna get to Captain America because he was a little mention dropped.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you say about that.
Yeah. So my next note is separated from family. I'm using quotes for family just because like she didn't feel like it was family. Like her sister thought it was like a family, even though she didn't feel like it was a family because I say separated from family, like they were taken away to go to the Red Room basically to get training. Um,
Mhm.
so was it really a family for them, even in those 3 years that they were together, like going around the country and like spying and everything? I don't know. Like some people in the family thought it was real, some people didn't.
Yeah. It seems like throughout the movie, do you think that throughout the movie, it seems everyone, at least from my perspective, thought a little bit of a family, whether or not
Mhm.
they actively thought it at the time. It seems like all of them look back kind of in retrospective like it was a family.
Yeah.
Maybe not as important as some other characters thought it was, but
Mhm.
it seems like all of them connected in a way.
Yeah, and family didn't have to necessarily mean blood family since they were not the actual parents of both Natasha and Yelena.
Mhm.
They were the adopted parents, and I say adopted very loosely because again, they weren't really their parents, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but it's just a nice way of seeing that there's always differences in how families work, and in the end, it became a family unit in a way.
Yeah, I agree.
So my next note I have is that the dark opening credits scene I thought was kind of like, wow, Billy. I don't know how Billy's gonna feel about this. Like the credits of how they did like all the scenes of like young Natasha like going through being in like child labor and then going to the red room and then all these dark sequences. And I said it reminded me of Black Ops, the video game, where like they had like the opening of Black Ops and it was kind of like you know it was like a darker feel in that kind of sense.
Mhm.
And I know Marvel movies are usually lighter in tone. I mean, obviously Black Widow's story is more dark than the other ones,
Mhm.
but I felt like, I don't know how Billy's gonna feel about like this kind of darker tone, especially towards the beginning.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable, or it made me very uncomfortable.
There is no
um,
person here where I'm gonna be like, I don't know how Billy feels about it.
there's yeah, that's what I was mentioning about like how it felt like a different movie because like there's a lot of things in it that are a lot more graphic, I guess in a way. Oops,
Yeah.
graphic you could say in this and in some of the series than
Mhm.
traditionally, I guess,
Yeah.
in a Marvel movie. So yeah, that part definitely caught me by surprise, and some other parts caught me by surprise as well. So
So before we get on to like present day, because this was back in 1995 that we were in for most of her childhood that we had seen in this scene.
mhm.
Any parts that you found significant in this early childhood sequence?
um, it's the only part that we learn um, from here that I get that you didn't mention, I guess, is that the father is a super soldier. We learn
Yeah.
that in this little sequence, but I mean, we'll talk about that more as we go
Mhm.
on.
But I
Um,
mean, like, I don't know how you would be shocked since like a lot of people knew that he was going to be playing the Red Guardians, so it's not like it
it
was. I
wasn't.
don't think it was going to be shocking for most people who had seen like the trailers and everything else. So
Yeah, it wasn't like a big like, oh my god, didn't see that coming.
yeah. I did find it interesting that like, he just hung on to the wing of the plane and I'm like, did he actually go into the plane or did they just like let him stay on for the entire time going to Cuba? Like
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, did he literally sit there the whole time?
he's just chilling, like I'm a super soldier, I'll be fine.
Exactly. I thought that was hilarious. Uh, I don't
And then
know.
they go to Cuba, and then like you see how Natasha actually has a little bit of training in her because she's able to easily take away a gun from one of the soldiers and is starting to point at
Mhm,
everybody because like they were like threatening to like take her sister away. And
mhm,
she's like, "Don't touch her! I'll shoot every single one of you." And
mhm,
I'm like, "Well, she's trained at a very young age at this point, so I'm kind of surprised."
mhm. I think the so she seems very protective over her younger sibling,
Hmm.
um, and the father, I think, says, like, or Natasha says, "You can't take her." And the father, I think, says something along the lines of, or Natasha says, "You can't take her because she's so young," or she's only however old she was, I think.
Like 6.
I think so. And then the father says, "You were even younger than
Yeah.
you were." So it seemed like she had, you're right, she had training for a good amount of time at that
Hmm.
point, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. All right. So now the next note I have is Ross needs a life. Because honestly, like he's the Secretary of State at this point, I think. So like, why is he going out to try and find
Personally.
Black Widow? Yeah, and it's like, shouldn't he be better than this? I mean, he should know that. I feel like it's a nice movie trope that like, we're gonna converge on this one place because there's this bad guy here, quote unquote bad guy, who's actually the good guy,
Hmm.
and it's like, nah, I actually like got you. I'm not actually there.
Yeah, I'm on a boat somewhere else.
Yeah, like it was a movie trope, but I was like, I know she's not gonna get captured because we know we have an entire movie. Plus, we know she never got captured. So
Mhm. Yeah. So Black Widow, I think she says that. That seems a little desperate of you. That seems like you kind of agree, right?
the banter between the two of them, like when she was like, "Oh yeah, isn't this like your third like carpal tunnel surgery?" I'm just like, "Jeez,
Or like,
going after him hard."
yeah, like second triple bypass or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
like, wow, just like going right at the gut right there.
Yeah, flat out. um, yeah, I agree. It was very cinematic scene
Hmm.
that kind of reminded me of like a Jason Bourne movie.
Yeah, that's true. Well, for me also like Mission Impossible.
That's true. I haven't seen a lot of those.
Yeah, one thing you have to watch.
Yeah, I have a lot of things I need to watch.
We see that Natasha is in Norway and she meets up with one of her friends who is able to give her a place to stay and be able to give her a lot of resources. Actually, he's very resourceful. He's able to deal with a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and she has to go get gas. And this is where we meet Taskmaster.
Yep.
And I think that Taskmaster is super cool, but I have to remember like he's a bad guy. She's a bad guy, actually. Um, Anybody who's seen the movie knows. But we
Spoiler
know
alerts.
that we know that Taskmaster is this villain who's able to like learn and be able to manipulate and mimic the actions of heroes and supervillains. So like he's
Mhm,
able to mimic a lot of people
mhm,
and how they're able to do it. So that's why like when he first sees Black Widow and is fighting with her, he's doing basically the same things as she's doing
mhm,
because he knows her movements. He knows, and I. It's interesting because like he's also using the mask, which is
mhm,
able to like trace how she's like moving and stuff, which is
mhm,
kind of like how Iron Man did. It's like when he was fighting Captain America, he was like analyze the fighting pattern. He's able to do it, and that's how he's able to beat him and stuff. So
mhm,
it's kind of like a similar thing.
mhm. I agree. Very cool. Uh, chameleon-like power,
Hmm.
right? Makes it very hard to fight. Black
Yeah.
Widow did a good job though.
Hmm.
She fought valiantly and didn't win the fight, but won the war.
She was able to take the vials away, which we learn the vials are this antidote that allows for those who are in the Black Widow program to not be mind controlled anymore.
Mhm,
Because in this new Red Room, they're going to be mind controlled to do whatever like is told for them to do,
mhm.
and they can't be able to escape from that. But these vials have the antidote for that. So
Yeah.
that's what he was basically after.
Mhm. Yes. And do you think she knew what those? She didn't know what those things were, right? The
No,
vials.
no.
She just knew that she needed to get them, whatever
That's
they
just,
were.
well, she didn't know like why Taskmaster was going after them, so she brought them over to Budapest
Mhm.
because that's where all this stuff came from. Because her sister, as we find out, just sent them over to uh, Black Widow so that way she could be able to like just keep it safe. But obviously, it wasn't safe because Taskmaster was able to find it. So,
Mhm. I wonder how.
good question. I mean, he's a good assassin, so I think he's able to figure out where like Black Widow is and stuff.
Impressive. Mhm.
Um, so that leads us to Budapest, where we see that she goes to the hideout where she once was.
Mhm.
And I've written down what happened in Budapest because this was a little thing between Hawkeye and Black Widow. It's like, oh, this is not like Budapest, and Budapest is very different. It's like, well, what happened in Budapest? And we never got to actually know
Yeah.
until this movie.
Yeah. I feel like we didn't even really get to. I would have liked to know a little bit more about what actually happened. Right?
So I wrote down so Budapest is where Hawkeye helps Natasha kill Dreykov, which was the man who ran the Red Room.
Mhm.
Um, Hawkeye and Black Widow hide out in a train air duct for 2 days, and we
Mhm.
learn that later on.
Mhm.
And Black Widow kills Dreykov's daughter. That was the whole reason. So that way she can be able to get away from the Red Room and be able to go to Shield and to the Avengers.
Mhm. It's like her final test, I think she said.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Which she thought she succeeded, but turns out she did not.
Not, yeah. And do you think she convinced herself that she succeeded in the sense that she kind of knew that she didn't or might not have, but didn't want to believe it?
I think
Or
she
do you,
convinced herself enough because I think like she saw that like like the explosion happens. No one could really survive that, and she was like, "Well, I didn't really need a body to figure that out." You know, I thought he was dead, so no
Mhm.
reason to check. But of course, there's every reason to check because in the world of spies, you don't know who's alive and dead. Like, there's a lot of people who could be dead, but actually are alive. You know.
Mhm. Seems like it happens a lot in these movies.
No one's actually truly dead.
I mean, Loki. I mean, how many times?
Is he gonna be alive? Huh?
well, we'll talk about that later.
So my next note is Florence Pugh is A plus plus as Yelena.
What was that? Oh, yes, the actor.
I loved her character. I loved her character. She was just a very nice foil to Natasha, and I think it was very nice to see the dynamic between the two, especially the fight sequence when they like go after each other, two assassins going after each other, and they
Mhm.
eventually go in a truce. Like that was pretty cool.
Mhm. I thought she was really funny too.
Yeah,
Like
she has
the
a lot
humor.
of good moments, and I have some moments here that I have.
Mhm. Um, they had a good dynamic. I agree
Mhm.
as well.
And then we find out that like the widows are coming to try and get the vials, so then they escape. And I always thought that like these widows are just like they got trained and they're not as experienced as like Natasha and Yelena. So I felt like there was no real good match between the widows that were trying to go after her and them because they're more experienced, they're more trained, they're older, so they should know more. You know,
Yeah, like they're the top of the top of the
right?
pinnacle, best of the best.
And we eventually find out that like one of the widows, like Natasha, tries to go over there and she's like, I'm gonna help you, and she's like pointing like the wrist lasers at herself, and she's like, I'm not trying to do this, and then she gets terminated basically by Dreykov.
Yeah, that was one of the scenes that caught me by surprise.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I feel like it was very not. It wasn't like graphic in the sense that like visually graphic, but
Mhm.
I don't know how to
It
explain
was
it.
an intense moment because
Yeah,
you're like, wow, you have to see someone like involuntarily kill themselves.
yeah, it was a very powerful scene.
Mhm.
Um,
And that's where we get to like the end of the sequence. And you saw, like, I saw how Taskmaster was in that tank, and I was like, this guy's ruthless. Like, he's just going through the entire city, like, no care in the world about human life, just wanting to accomplish their mission. So I
Yeah,
thought that was really interesting. And then they did like the Hawkeye arrow, which he was like spot on, blew up the truck, and he was able to like try and find them, but they eventually escape because, of course, they're better than Taskmaster.
yeah. They're more sneaky, I
Hmm.
guess. They're more clever.
Yeah, more experienced.
Mhm. Um, yeah, and then that's where we learn that they spent time in the air duct. You get like
Hmm.
those tic tac toe things on the
Yep,
saw on the
the
side,
tic tac toe and everything.
which is funny.
So let's see. Next note I have is poses.
I thought that was so funny.
And it's true, like she does do a lot of poses.
Uh-huh. I thought she was gonna break fourth wall when she was talking about that. She didn't. I thought she was gonna say something like, well, she said something along the lines of, "You're posing as if everyone's watching you all the time."
Yeah.
I thought she was
Well,
gonna say,
technically she is.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna say, "You're posing as if you're, like, in a movie or something like that, or, like, in an action movie." I thought they were gonna completely break fourth wall, but they didn't.
Yeah. And now I probably won't be able to unsee that Black Widow does a lot of poses now.
Uh-huh, I agree. And then later when she lands and poses,
Oh yeah.
so funny. So many callbacks.
And then we hear the joke that like, oh, like the god from space doesn't have to take an ibuprofen every time he gets hurt. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
A
You
lot of
really think
that.
about behind the scenes, right?
Yeah. Because like Yelena's explaining that like, both of them are still trained killers, but one of them turned out to be like this super hero based, like on the cover magazines, like, people, a lot of girls love her. But then there's like Yelena who's like not known as well.
Mhm.
And she's like, we're both the same, but you're just like in a different life. You're still a killer, and I'm still a killer. So
Yeah. I think they wanna change, though. Black Widow
yeah.
definitely wants to change at that point.
Hmm. So let's see. Next note I have is breaking Alexi out of prison. A plus. I like that scene. That was a really fun scene.
I felt so bad for everyone else who got, like, with the snow. I was like,
Right.
I feel bad for, like, all, like, the guards and all the other people, and the
Mhm.
inmates. I hope they got in safely.
Billy is always concerned for human life.
Well, I mean, like, they didn't do anything that deserved that. They were already paying their sentence, and then the other people were just doing their job, taking care of them as a prisoner, or
Yeah.
as an officer, I mean. But the sequence where they introduce him with the arm wrestling, I thought was, well,
Yeah.
they introduced the older
Introduces the
version.
new him.
Yeah, was interesting.
And this is where he was like talking about like, yeah, I was fighting up against Captain America back in like 1980 whatever, and then he's like, well, Captain America was still frozen, and he's like, you calling me a liar? And I did like the scene where like, he's like, mimicking that he's losing, like, oh no, oh no, oh no, and then boom,
Yeah.
because he knows he's stronger than everybody else.
Yeah, it's not even fair. He does
um
have a Captain blah, blah, blah. He does have a Captain America complex, it seems like.
oh yeah, he thinks he's very like mighty. He thinks he's this mighty individual, but he has a superiority complex that I think is not quelled yet.
No, not quite.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, we learned that, like, he gets thrown in prison later on after he feels like he did, uh, honorable work, I guess.
Hmm.
I it's understandable that he feels like that.
Yeah. Um, Another note I have is Red Guardian merch. So like there's like action figures of the Red Guardian.
Oh, merch.
Yeah, merchandise.
Apparently.
And it's like dee, 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 dee. I'm like, oh god, like of course he has to think this way about himself, like because
Uh,
there's all these things that are like showing off the Red Guardian as being the Soviet Union version of Captain America, and he always has to. And I think it's justified that he has a superiority complex because he's kind of been justified by society that he is this amazing hero,
mhm,
similar to Captain America.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Action figure part was funny.
Um, and my last note on the breaking out of prison scene is super soldier serum doesn't work as well.
What do you
So I'm
mean?
thinking like so like this. So I thought about this. I was like, this doesn't seem like the regular super soldier serum that like Steve Rogers had, because like Alexi doesn't look in shape.
Oh, I see.
Even though he seems to still have like, you know, super strength and everything, like he doesn't seem like he's in shape. Because as you know from the first Captain America film, we know that like alcohol doesn't affect him because like of his super soldier serum and his metabolism like off the charts.
Mhm,
So I thought about it. I'm like, well, I guess it could be that it's a different type of super soldier serum for Alexi
mhm,
that maybe Soviet Union had created, but it wasn't the same as the one that was made for Captain America. So like, but I was just like, how is it that this super soldier looks like that? And it's a couple of times that you hear the jokes about like how his appearance looks, you know, since he's still a super soldier, you know.
mhm. Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Um, in Falcon and Winter Soldier, the new version of the serum, they have it's supposed to be like stealth, so
Hmm.
it doesn't seem to like make people bulky or like bigger or fit or anything.
Hmm.
So it could be something similar to that, maybe.
But we don't know how old Alexi is.
We do or we don't.
We do not.
Yeah, we don't. It's a good point.
Because like obviously like Captain America does age,
Hmm.
and we could say he's probably like over 100 by the time we see him in Avengers Endgame at the end credit scene.
Hmm.
So I could say like maybe Alexi is probably like 60 years old, even though he may look like in his 50s. I don't know. I mean, we don't know how old he is. He's been around since the Soviet Union was around, so like it's unknown at this point.
Yeah, I'm not
And
sure.
his appearance doesn't really help because like he has the long hair and the beard and everything, so you really can't tell.
Hmm. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Not quite sure.
Yeah.
But also in the first Captain America movie, I think they mention so Captain America is drinking and he says something about how he can't get drunk.
Hmm.
And then Peggy says something along the lines of Erskine thought it might have been like a side effect of the serum. So I
Mm.
guess if they perfected the serum or like made it better, it would get rid of that side effect, which is what
Mm.
kept him looking fit, I guess.
Yeah.
So it would have been like an improvement, but it really wasn't an improvement in a way.
Mm.
And also Captain America continuously trained. So like
That's true.
he always stayed fit. So um I don't know. I guess we have to see how uh what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? US agent. See if
Oh
he
yes,
see if
John Walker.
yeah, see if he gets any chunkier as he ate. No, I'm kidding.
Let's
uh,
hope, because we all hate him.
uh, uh, he means well.
We're gonna talk about that at the end. So shh.
We will. Uh, but yeah. Okay.
So I did like that scene where like they're trying to break him out of prison. There's like the banter between Alexi and Black Widow and everybody like trying to like get everybody like coordinated because there's no coordination. She's now having to fight off the soldiers so that way he can be able to come on. And then like when they go around and he's like, "What? You're gonna leave me?" And then there's like, "Nah, I'm gonna bring you around and then come and get you."
Uh-huh.
Um, and then they're on the helicopter, and this is the first time that they've seen him in so many years.
Mhm.
And my next note is probably one that you're kind of like cringy about. It's uterus talk.
It was really awkward because I was sitting next to my sister in the movie. So I was kind of just like,
I have to hear this.
I
I
mean,
have to hear this.
it would make me uncomfortable no matter who I was sitting next to, but that just made it.
I mean, it was
I,
helpful because, like, if you forgot what Black Widow said in Age of Ultron, like, you know that, like, you had to get an entire hysterectomy in order to be in the Red Room, so that way you're not going to be affected by a baby or something.
yeah,
But I did like that they used it as like this way of like torturing Alexi because he's like, "Stop being so nasty."
yeah, yeah. No comment.
Um, so they're in the helicopter and like they're trying to figure out where the red room is, and he's like, I don't know where the red room is. And it's like, seriously? And he's like, but maybe your mother knows. And it's like, she's dead. It's like, no, she's alive. I know she's alive. She's right near St. Petersburg and actually still works for the red room. It's like, what? So he's like, we're gonna have enough fuel to get to St. Petersburg. And then the helicopter just goes.
That was hilarious.
So then they had to walk the rest of the way.
Hmm. I wonder how
And
far. Oops, sorry, I was gonna say I wonder how far they had to walk.
I don't think it was very far because it seemed like they were still like able to get to the house by the end of the day. So,
Hmm.
but like during the conversation, like they were having, like, Alexi is like, so, did he talk about me? And Tasha's like, what? And he's like, did he talk about me? And he's like, who? He's like, Captain America. He's very fixated on being like the Captain America foil to Steve Rogers.
Yeah, I thought that scene was hilarious. It's just funny that Black Widow's connected to both of them,
Right.
which
Both
makes it unique.
Captain Americas.
Mm. Or like, yeah, two two super soldiers that carry the
Hmm.
name of their country.
Right. Um, and I did like this whole dynamic, obviously it's very sad that, like, they're trying to express their feelings to him about them being separated and abandoned by him. And it's like, there's nothing I could have done, blah, 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 blah. He's trying to make excuses and stuff. And
Mm.
then he's like trying to say how proud he is of them. Like, Yelena is like the most effective child murderer, and then Natasha is one of the most fierce killers, and now she's an Avenger. And and what made me laugh was like, you guys have killed so many people.
That whole scene. I was just like it was
Not
just
the
such a
kind of motivational speech that you would think a father should have.
yeah, definitely Black Widow. I bet hated that.
Well, obviously she like scurried away before he even tried to hug her. And
Yeah.
Elena was like still hugging him, and I think that shows that like Natasha's like, I don't even want to deal with like the family issues that we've had,
Mm.
whereas Elena is still trying to hold on to it, but she's still uncomfortable with it because she was separated and abandoned by him. So I get it.
Mm. Yeah, it makes sense. Sad though.
Yeah. My next note is actually when we get to the farm. Elena mind controls pigs. How'd you feel about the pig having to like suffocate?
I felt so bad. Like when Black Widow was like finally like, okay, stop it. I was like, thank you, thank you. My tension was
Be
building.
an advocate for the pig, please.
Like I was like my anxiety was building so much. Like I was like having a hard time sitting still in my seat. I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
make him okay, make him okay. Come on.
Even though probably it was not a real pig, it was obviously CGI, but like you still felt bad that like a pig could be like suffocating.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god, it was making me so like. I was like, just make it okay. Flip the switch. Just whichever way it was, right or left. Just make it okay.
I like how Melena's like, fine, he's gonna be fine. He had another 11 seconds. It's like, okay. It's so
Uh,
cold.
yeah. What'd you think about
Um,
it?
I think it's an interesting concept that like they're using mind control chips or serum. I forget which one it is. I think it might be the chip in the back of your head to control the widows, and like she's using it to test on pigs to try and perfect that for the red room because obviously like she needs to do this because she's under the control of Dreykov, so she can't be able to like not do this. So she's using this as a thing. But I think she's doing it in a more humane way where she's not like training him to like kill or anything. She's trying to train them to go through a maze and stuff. And I was kind of confused at first. I was like, why is there a maze with pigs? But then I realized like they're training to make sure that the
Mhm,
mind control works.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. I was initially confused as well because I couldn't tell if she was like telling it which way to go with that or like saying go right, go left. Because she was saying on the
Right.
thing, and it's kind of hard to tell if she's trying to communicate with them or control them.
Mm. How did you feel about the Red Guardian suit? How did you feel about
It was
that?
hilarious. Like when
It's
they're
definitely
sitting at the
different than Captain America's suit, as you know.
mhm,
It's got the more Russian Soviet-esque kind of wear to it.
mhm. So when I said it was hilarious, I didn't mean the aesthetic, I guess, of it.
Mm.
Um, the part that I'm specifically just thinking about the processing wearing it that he had to go through, where they're
Oh
sitting at
yeah,
the
just
table and you just
having
hear
to
like
go up and trying to like put it on.
yeah, and like them hearing like the grunting while they're at the table, where he's trying. It just sounds like he was constipated in the bathroom or
Yeah.
something.
And then he
And
comes out and he's like still fits, and then like Melina's like, ooh shit, and then like, oh stop that. And, like they're like googly eyed over each other, and like the two of them are just like, can you please like stop doing that? It's kind of weird
yeah, it's
for
very
us.
weird. um, Overall, the suit uh kind of reminds it kind of. I didn't necessarily study it too much, but it kind of looks like the US like a red version of the US agent.
Yeah.
Like I thought they look kind of similar design
Hmm.
wise, and both of those are based off of the Captain America suit. But
Right.
those are more unicolor, unicolor,
Yeah.
omnicolor, unicolor. One of those.
Monochromatic.
Monochromatic. That's the word. Thank you. Oh my god, 4 years of a physics. I, for,
We've already shown that you can't do English, so it's fine.
yeah. Give me some math, and we'll see if I can do that too.
um,
Uh,
so there's a lot of family tension as we have seen in this scene as well. Like there's a lot of
mhm,
tension between like, you know, how Natasha and Yelena is trying to navigate having to see them after so many years and having the family tension of like, you know, you've abandoned us, you left us, you never came and brought us back. And then Yelena had to tell Melina that like her mind control affected her own daughter in a way. And now like everybody's starting to feel bad. And like Yelena has to leave. And then I think it was interesting how Alexi's trying to like comfort her. It's like, you're not going to probably do anything to help that one out
the
because I
story
think,
was funny.
yeah, the story was odd. Like, you
It,
know, dunk my hands in the water. I'm gonna have frostbite. Please pee on my hands to warm them up. Like, ew.
so gross, but
He's not the very loving, tender father figure that I
no,
think Black Widow and Yelena needs.
I agree.
And
Means well. Just
I think Melina had a much better dynamic between Black Widow, as we'll see. And I think like her kind of reaching towards Natasha kind of helped out.
yeah. So what do you mean by that? I think I agree, but I just wanna.
So like we saw like the dynamic between Yelena and Alexi. They were not really like compatible. She was like having nothing to do with him. And it was until he started singing the song that they heard in the car that like she kind of opened up to him. But I think more with Melina, Melina was able to like express herself in a way much more than Alexi was able to, because Alexi is not really again the father figure who's able to like help out in an emotional situation. I think Melina, being the mother figure, is able to help out much more towards Natasha. And that's how they have like this dynamic of like, you know, going back on the past, seeing the book of all the pictures which they took on the same day for different holidays and stuff. But
Yeah.
she still felt like it was a family moment for them. You know, she still wanted to open the presents. So I feel like Natasha was more open in trying to, you know, express herself than Yelena was, because Yelena was still trying to hold on to that family dynamic while still being mad that all the things that happened to her, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Um, Another thing about like when Alexi and Yelena were talking was like Yelena had mentioned like, you know, oh, you were just trying to be out there being like the Crimson Dynamo, and he's like, I was the Red Guardian. And
Mhm.
I was like, that's a good reference because that's an actual character in Marvel Comics, the Crimson Dynamo.
Is it?
It is, yes.
That's hilarious. Who is
I've
it?
I've heard rumblings that like don't be surprised if Crimson Dynamo is gonna be mentioned or something. And lo and behold, I completely forgot until that one thing. I was like, oh my god.
Huh. Who is that?
He was an Iron Man villain from the early parts of Iron Man's existence in Marvel Comics. He also had a suit, I believe. I'm not really familiar with Crimson Dynamo because he wasn't like the biggest character
Mhm,
in Iron Man's world. Basically, in his early parts, he was, but like
mhm,
later on, he wasn't.
mhm,
But I think it's like he has like Iron Man esque kind of suit.
mhm. So you don't think the character itself will be introduced into
Not
the
at the
MCU?
moment. No, maybe in maybe like Armor Wars I could see, but like I don't know. It's a nice name drop,
That's a
though, a
good
nice little
reference.
reference.
Yeah. Nice. Didn't even.
So, so then we find out that like the members of the Red Room and Taskmaster converge on the house because Melina had warned Natasha, and
Mhm.
they're all captured. I found it funny that like they squirt like the darts. They shoot the darts at like Alexi. He's like, oh, that's nothing. He goes, and he finally falls.
Yeah. I thought it was just funny that like he didn't even move. Just like stood there and let them hit him
Right. He's like, I can take it. It's like, it's like, no, you can't.
after like 15 or 10 or however many it was.
A lot.
Yeah. That was funny.
Um, and then we see that Melina, I was surprised. I was like, Melina's like this double agent, like
Mhm.
going against them, taking them to the Red Room. And what I found interesting was that like the Red Room was up in the sky.
It was a
I
good
didn't
place
even
to
think of
place
it
it.
being up in the sky. I thought it was gonna be like underground or like somewhere like secretive, but it was like up in the sky. And I'm like, how is it that no one's seen this or knows about this? Or he must be
Mhm.
really good at concealing it because that's a huge part
Yeah.
of the sky that he's like taking over. So
Mhm. I don't know. That's a good question.
like how is it that like not only did not shield, but also how is it that like, all these government agencies, unless they're like working together with the Red Room because he said Dreykov said that like he has like all these government officials at the palm of his hand, so
Mhm.
maybe that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Well, because they are good at being spies, I guess. So if they're ahead of the game, they can like they don't have to stay in the same location,
That's true.
right? Kind of like the helicarrier can fly around.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Um.
a good question, though. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So we land, and then Alexei and Natasha hold up, and then Melina comes in, and she talks to Dreykov. But then Dreykov finds out that that's actually Natasha with him and
Mhm.
not Melina, which I was like, what? And then we see that Melina is actually, playing Natasha's role, which I
Mhm.
thought was funny. And then I think, yeah, in my notes, I said, thought Melina double crossed them. Turns out she's a triple agent.
Mhm. The
And
elusive.
that was like a reference to like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where like Mac, one of Indiana Jones's friends, like he was, his friend. Then he became an agent of the Soviet Union, and then became his friend again, and then became an agent again. And it's like this triple cross. It's just like,
So what are you, a triple agent?
I see. That was a good reference. I didn't pick up on that either. I need to watch
yeah.
those movies again.
Mhm. But I thought it was interesting that like they had this whole plan where like they're gonna swap faces and Natasha's gonna be in there with him and she has the plan of being able to break out Alexi and like take down the Red Room by like like manually landing it on the ground so that
Mhm.
way they can bring it down. Um, but it turns out that that's not how it works.
No, it's not.
So
Never works as easily.
there's a few hiccups, and Natasha is like right in the room with Taskmaster, and we find out in this scene that Taskmaster is Dreykov's daughter. That she
Mhm.
lived, she got disfigured from the explosion, and she's now controlled by Dreykov, and now is like this huge assassin that's able to be the perfect mimic.
Mhm.
How did you feel not only about this reveal? Because I was like, maybe it's somebody that we know that got controlled, kind of like Bucky, or
Mhm.
is it just somebody that like we just never thought of, like maybe was Dracov Star? What did you think of that reveal?
Honestly, I saw it coming.
Oh, you did? Okay. I did not see it coming. I'm like doing my seat, like, who is it? Who
Mhm.
is it?
Like, I wasn't 100% sure, but I was like, I have a feeling because they made just a big reference to it at the beginning. I was like, this is definitely gonna come back at the end. And the only way I could think of at the beginning how it could come back towards the end is, well, the only character that we don't know whose identity it really is Taskmaster. So if they're gonna
Yeah.
come back at all, it's gonna be as Taskmaster.
Mm.
Yeah. So then when it happened, I was like still surprised because in the back of my mind, I was like, because it had like a male figure,
Mm.
so they did a good job like hiding that, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I kind of saw it coming, unfortunately. So it wasn't
Um,
as big of a reveal.
so like I was able to look at her. Like, were you able to look at her?
Oh, like when she took off the mask.
Yeah, because like remember how like like Drake was saying to Natasha, like, are you able to look at her, see her face, see what it looks like, Because I
Mhm.
didn't feel like it was that disfigured.
Yeah. I think Black Widow, if she was gonna have a hard time, it was because she knew she caused it. So it would have
Hmm.
been more out of like guilt than like not being attractive to look at, I guess. Not being
Yeah.
aesthetic. Um, when that scene happened, I was more looking to see if like you could see like any like motion on the face, or the body. So
Mm.
I was more trying to see if like she was still human in a way.
We find out that she is, but like for right now, she was under like the control of Dreykov. So like she was more like a trained killer, a
Mm,
machine almost.
mhm. Yeah. But now that you say it, I do think back, and I was like looking up, looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up, looking down. Like, and the emotion not yet. The emotion not yet.
Yeah.
So like I guess I did have a little trouble looking at it.
Because it's an intense, moments that we have in the movie where like we see the face and we see how you almost want to feel like it's human, but like you feel like it's not as at the same time.
Because it doesn't show anything,
Yeah.
or she doesn't show anything.
Hmm. So then Taskmaster leaves, and Black Widow's like, "Well, that was a stupid idea. It's the only thing that was gonna keep you from being killed."
Mm,
And then like she goes to like shoot him, and he's like, "There's nothing wrong with the gun." Boom, boom, and I'm like, "What?" So then
mhm,
she takes out the knife and then like stops. And my note here is Dreykov uses the force. Like, how is he able to stop this? I thought maybe he was like this superhuman
mhm,
that had this ability, kind of like how Invisible Woman is able to like use force fields. Like, was there some sort of force field that was preventing all these things from happening? And I was just
mhm.
like, what? Like, I'm shook here.
Yeah.
Find out that like it was not that, it was more like an olfactory sense that she's able to smell the pheromones of him and is unable to do any kind of uh harm to him, which I was
Mhm.
just like, okay,
That's
I'll
weird.
leave, I'll let it go, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I won't question that.
There's a lot of things we could question in this universe. I'm not gonna question that.
Mhm. Yeah, my first thought was like, oh no, Black Widow was infected. She's under like mind control or something like that. But it wasn't like the standard mind control, I guess you're thinking of. She was kind of mind control, but it was like,
It's not the same way that there's like an invisible chip that was in her brain and it like got activated if she tried to like hurt him. It was like a scientific, like biological thing.
that you physically couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, which I found was really interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, and then we learn uh, why she was letting herself get beaten up, right?
Explain.
Oh, so at least the way I interpreted it, um, I think she was trying to get beaten up and getting punched in the face because she ended up having to hit her face on the table. So I think she was trying to not have to do that and have like it done to her
Hmm.
because I think when she said, I think when she slammed her face, she said something along the lines of, she has to finish the job because he couldn't. So then she goes, boom. and then she says she separated the nerve, so she had to finish it.
Okay,
Right?
I did not catch on to that. I thought she was just doing that to try and demean him, to make him seem like, he thinks he's strong, but in reality, he's just a weak man who's able to just punch a defenseless girl. I
Mhm.
thought of it in that sort of way,
I see.
trying to damage his ego because, like, there's such a psychological disparaging between the two of them that I feel like she wanted to bring him down emotionally as an egotist for himself. So him just punching her over and over and over again and not having her defend, it's like, this weak moment for him. And that's what she was trying to elicit. But I do like that. I didn't realize that. And you probably are right that, like, she was trying to get him to punch her in the nose, but, like, it didn't work and she had to do it herself.
Could be both, right?
It could be both.
Mhm.
Um, So we see that Taskmaster goes to Alexi and Melina is gonna go off and try and shut down the engines, and then Alexi's like, "All right, here we go, and we're gonna go." And, like, I didn't really think that he was going to win the fight. I mean, like, we saw he was struggling early on.
Yeah.
Um,
He was, resilient, though. He kept going.
yeah,
Didn't give up.
I can do this all day.
I was wondering if they're gonna throw that reference in there, but, I thought that
Nah, it wouldn't have been the same.
would've been a little too much, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, I did like that, like, Taskmaster was gonna use, like, the claws, like Black Panther, I like that. Um, I do like that, like, she is able to mimic a lot of different characters and
Yeah.
just use their different fighting styles against other people. And I was like, I don't think that she knows the fighting style of Alexi, but I definitely feel like she's going to use somebody else, that's more superior to him. Because we know that he's kind of at a disadvantage because he's not in shape. He hasn't really been in fighting. I mean, obviously, he put up a good fight, though. So
Yeah. He's, um what's the word I'm looking for? Along the lines of resilient, robust, just
he's tough as nails.
sure. That works.
um, and I wrote down as my next note, like, the master plan um, for Dreykov is to manipulate the world's most underused resource, as he had called it, which was all women on the planet Earth, and use all of them as his army, basically, of Black Widows to do his bidding, to control the world, basically. Which obviously I knew that was gonna happen. And I think that in the back of my mind, I'm like, none of these are gonna happen because we know that it would have happened already.
Yeah.
It's because of Infinity War and Endgame, but, like, we obviously know it didn't. Because, like, that's why I also feel like I didn't feel in this movie that, like, Black Widow's gonna die, because I remember, like, she has to live, so it's not possible for her to die. So I didn't
Yeah.
feel that kind of tension, and I didn't feel the tension of, like, the master plan of what Dreykov wanted to do, because I feel like that would have happened already. So
Mhm. It's hard with prequels. Or, like, not
yeah,
prequels, it's hard with, like, ones that try to put themselves in the middle of a storyline.
yeah, but that's okay. Like, I still like the story anyway. It's a good concept.
Yeah, it was a good movie
And there's
overall.
some finality to the movie, though. So
Somewhat?
some finality. So we have a conclusion.
Oh, yeah. Um,
Um,
which is good.
so yeah, in that note, Black Widow breaks her olfactory nerve. I say that she should have given Dreykov a better beatdown because I feel like she didn't do as much. I feel like she could have just, like, boom, boom, just really hurt him really badly. But
Mhm.
she was kind of like him in a way where she was kind of like boastful, like, "Ha, I got you now." And it's like boom, boom, good, really, like, a good couple of kicks in before, like, the widows came. I'm like, you could have done a little bit better.
Yeah, do you think she was trying to be more, uh, not reserved, but, like, still trying to change her ways of not just being, like, someone who's gonna beat up people, like,
I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe she's trying to feel the good of herself and be, like, the bigger person.
Mhm, exactly, yeah. No, because
But
the
then
but
we
I was sorry, I was gonna say, but the group shows up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's what
Which
I
we
was
did.
gonna say. Like, the group of Black Widows show up, and then they start beating her up. And I think that Natasha gave a good fight for all of them. Like, she was, like, knocking people left and right. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, she was doing a really good job.
Mhm.
I guess that shows how much experience she gets and has had
Mhm.
and learned as being an Avenger, I guess.
Yep. And then we see that like during this time, like Melina decides, you know what, I'm just gonna shoot all this stuff down and just take out one of the engines, and that just like does this domino effect where everything just starts to fall apart, basically.
Mhm.
Um, and that's where we get also the scene where Yelena tosses the vials, and it just like spatters all around the widows, and they're like, now what do we do? And it's like, you're free, you can go, basically.
Mhm.
And we also see that Alexi traps Taskmaster in the cage, the
Mhm.
cell, basically, for
Yeah.
her to die.
Mhm. Yeah. But then Black Widow shows up
Hmm.
later on.
So everything's starting to, go down. She transfers all the data. And I noticed that she transferred all the data for all the potential widows, which I didn't understand why. Because I feel like if the data just gets destroyed, then like it wouldn't have mattered. But I guess she wants to make sure that like she has the data, kind of like how she was in Winter Soldier, where she transfers all the data from like Shield and everything, all the files and everything from all that stuff
Mhm.
to expose the Red Room or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know what the ultimate goal of like transferring all that data is.
I
So
I thought the idea was all the people who are mind controlled weren't just on the platform. They're
mhm,
like active because she also grabs like two of the vials.
mm.
So I think the point was to, at least I'm not sure. So what do you think about the point being that they have to go find the people who are infected, give them the antidote, and then free
Mhm.
them, and that's like the goal to go free everyone else.
Yeah, go to
That's what I
the
thought.
Tony Stark or whomever it is and deliver the vials. Because remember that reference where like she was like, "Why don't you go to like one of your scientists like Tony Stark and
Hmm.
just replicate?" It's like, well, not really good terms right now.
Yeah, that just yeah, yeah, that doesn't really work right now.
Yeah.
But
Um.
yeah. I hope
So
they
I
were
think
successful. I feel like they're gonna. Sorry to cut you off. I feel like they're gonna elaborate on how successful that endeavor was, replicating the antidote and
mm,
getting it to people.
yeah. Um. So we also see that like everything's starting to collapse and everything. Um. And Yelena sacrifices herself, or at least tries to sacrifice herself by like blowing up the engine of like one of the helicopters or whatever that's carrying Dreykov, and then Dreykov gets blown up, and that death is final,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah,
good. So that means like there's a finality to it. So that means Dreykov's not going to be alive again.
and yeah, and we get to see how like selfless um both of them are, like the sisters,
Yeah,
right? Like
because
that type bond.
like even though Yelena's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself. This was a good life and
Hmm.
everything. Like she gets blown up, but she didn't get blown up. She got blown off.
Yeah.
So that gave her the ability to like go after her and give her like the parachute and whatever. And in the scene beforehand, we saw that like Natasha still has like this grief about doing this to Dreykov's daughter.
Hmm.
So she wants to release her, but then obviously Taskmaster is still like, nah, I'm gonna just still kill you,
Hmm.
because she's still her training. She's still under the control
Hmm.
of Dreykov. So like she frees her, but then like they all fall through, and that's where we get to the scene with Yelena. But then Taskmaster's still alive, still gonna try and go after Black Widow. So then Black Widow's like, nope, and then she jumps off. We have this nice little aerial battle, which I think the visuals are really cool, especially in IMAX. I'm gonna tell
Yeah.
you. Um, the visuals were really cool for like the whole scene of everything breaking and everything, and I didn't understand what it was gonna be in the trailers, but I thought it was really cool to see the outcome.
Yeah. That scene was really cool, like fighting while falling and
Hmm.
everything. My only grievance is that if they're all falling, they're weightless. They shouldn't have been able to like slide and like act as if gravity was on that platform.
This is a movie where we have olfactory nerves being broken to make sure you beat up people. We're not going to question the physics behind it.
What's funny is, to be honest, I didn't even think about that until this very moment. During the movie, I was so into it that I was just like, "This is awesome." Right now,
This
I'm
is
like,
such a cool scene.
yeah, and then like right now, I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then Taskmaster and Black Widow start going at it. They fall to the ground, and even though they're starting to fight and everything, like Natasha's like, "I'm not gonna fight you." And then like, as they're starting to like really start going at it before like anything else happens, she like breaks the vial, releases, and she's able to get Dracov's daughter freed. And we see that she's still a human being. You know, she wasn't doing this under her own volition. She was being controlled by Dracov, and that's why, you know, Natasha went over and she was like, "I'm sorry," and she told her about like, you know, how she was felt really bad about this. It wasn't your fault, and now you're free. And Draco's was, "Yep, I know." So I thought that was a really nice ending for Taskmaster.
Yeah, I thought it was I agree. I feel like it was good resolution to both characters.
Hmm. And then we see that like the widows come back for Yelena and is able to take her off and take Taskmaster and take off basically the family, like Alexi and Yelena go with them because now they're going to try and, as you said, you know, bring the antidote to all the other widows that could potentially be out there, all the other agents that could be out there.
Mhm.
Um, and that's where they go off. And I found it really weird that like Black Widow stays when Ross is coming, and I'm like, how did that conversation go down? Like, how did she escape? Because we obviously know she escaped, but like, why did she stay?
Yeah. Do you think she escaped, or do you think
What, you think she
like
beat up all those like soldiers that were in like a dozen cars? I don't think so.
not as in like escape as in like fighting her way out? I
Mm.
mean more of that she got away, or do you think she talked to them, got captured, and then like I don't know, just didn't get arrested for some reason?
Well, I mean,
Or
like we in the next scene, like it's a week later, so like
Mhm,
in that week's time, like she had to have done something with Ross to either escape or go get away or something like that, and able
mhm,
to go back a week later and be able to do that scene.
mhm.
So I don't know what would have happened, but like I felt like that was going to be the end of the movie,
I did
but it
too.
wasn't.
It's not.
It seemed like it was going to be the end, but it was kind of like this, you know, not really a mid-credit scene, but it was like a before end credit scene where it's like a transition.
Mhm. It's like a post climax resolution kind of.
It's a post res. It's a post resolution pre-credit scene.
You should coin that.
um, and before I tell about that, we have to talk about the vest that Natasha's wearing.
The whole story around the vest was hilarious. Like,
Like I didn't think anything of it, and she's like, "There's just so many pockets," and it's like, "Don't you like it?" She's like, "Man, it's just a nice vest," and it's like, "Oh, so you don't like it?" She's like, "You know what? I actually do like it." It's like, right? It's such a great vest with all these pockets, and you can place all this stuff here and everything.
uh,
And then we find out that it's the vest that she wears in Infinity War,
mhm.
and I was just like, mind blown. I didn't even
Yeah.
think of it.
Like, how did we not like put like two to two together right at the beginning of the movie?
I think it's because I just don't really recognize the vest. I didn't recognize it as being the vest that she wears because I wasn't really apparent to it. And now when I watch Infinity War, I'm gonna be like, "That's the vest. I know where that vest came from."
Mhm. It's nice how they just filter in these details, right?
Hmm.
That are that are insignificant in a way, but are also significant and like it's good writing.
Hmm. So we go a week later, and we see that she goes over to her friend, who was
Mhm,
able to give her an actual Quinjet. You know,
mhm,
because they're given enough money and resources and time, he's able to get a Quinjet. And
mhm,
I'm like, well, we know that's the one that she uses in Infinity War to like bring everybody.
mhm.
And she's like, I'm gonna go and break some people out of prison, which I feel is kind of weird because we already know that Captain America broke him out of prison.
Mhm.
So I guess she's just going to pick him up. I guess she's the
Yeah.
riot,
I don't know. Maybe she didn't know he broke him out. Yeah,
maybe
because I'm sure that probably wasn't publicized
on the
on
news.
TV. Yeah.
Um, but we see that she's in her Infinity War haircuts, so she's like more close to Infinity War than she is to the Black Widow movie when that happened.
Mhm.
Um, and we also hear the Avengers theme song, which I thought was really cool.
Mhm. A good way to say, you know what's coming next.
Yep. And I actually sang it to myself
Did you?
as it was going because I was just like, yeah. And that's why I put the first note I have is Marvel is back because it just felt like it was back to the way things were. The atmosphere was the same. So
Mhm. The only thing that wasn't so I went to the 8 o'clock showing at night. Oh no, the 9 o'clock showing. Um, and it wasn't very full. The theater was kind of open, but like I know that AMC was probably doing something where you couldn't, as you said, I think you couldn't buy
mhm,
seats next to each other. So there's like a good amount more than just like leaving one seat in between.
mhm,
And it was just weird because I haven't been to a Marvel movie except when I went to see Endgame in theaters another time, like 2 months later, or something like that. Like it
mhm,
had lost its newness, I guess, in a way.
yeah.
But it hadn't been one where it was like empty.
Mhm.
It was
So the one that I was at, the 5 o'clock showing, was obviously full.
weird.
There's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Um, but I know what you mean because like I once saw Endgame with a few of my friends. It was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday, like in May. So like school was still happening and people were still at work and everything.
Mhm.
And it was like almost empty. Like the IMAX, it was an IMAX theater too. So it was like almost empty. It was just us and like a few other people.
Mhm.
And it was a nice experience to see Endgame in
Mhm.
IMAX like by yourself. So
Mhm. It's definitely different, right?
yeah.
It's surprising. Um,
So
Anywho, I
so are you ready for the final note?
the
My,
the mid credit scene or the
the post
final
credits.
credit scene, post credit scene. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, I am. This was a big one for me.
So my one thing I said about this was Contessa.
I still think of Elaine. So in my head, I was like, Elaine.
But I was just
uh,
like, because I remember people were saying that she was gonna be in the movie, and I
oh
can
really?
again, it just went out of my head. I completely forgot about it,
Mm,
and then we finally see her. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you what I thought was gonna happen. So I thought, and that actually was what I was thinking.
mm,
I was like, maybe I'm right. Was that she goes over to the grave and like, the grave of Natasha Romanoff for now in the present day. And I
mm.
thought like when she did the whistle, that I thought the whistle was gonna happen back to her. And that was gonna be like Natasha from another universe coming into our universe. And
You're
like
watching
how
too much Loki.
Shh, I have to because this is phase four. This is a new phase where we're going to be doing new stuff and it's going to be weird. So I was like, I am not going to be surprised if
Uh,
this was going to happen. But it didn't. And I was like, I was waiting for the whistle. I was like, give me the whistle. Give.
yeah, and then we just hear someone blowing their nose.
That was just like the rudest thing. Like, not just for like the story, but I was just like, why? Why is that? Like, and you're not sad. I know you're not sad.
Yeah, I think it was just to highlight her character, like
Yeah, her
just
character's a little oddball.
yeah.
But then we get to see the reveal of like, hey, so we know that Yelena is now working for Contessa.
Mhm,
And she's like, I feel so bad. Like she was such a good person, your sister was so great and everything. And then she's like, well, one way you can be able to help out her death is be able to avenge for the person who caused her death. And I was like, who is that? And then she shows like it's Hawkeye, and I'm like, what?
yeah,
So
it's
this is where we go back to like when Natasha and Yelena were talking about being in the air duct for 2 days and being in Budapest with Clint. And I'm like, she should at least know who he is, you know?
yeah,
It was weird for me to go like, okay, so you're gonna assassinate him, but like he's obviously gonna say like, who are you? Oh, you're Natasha's sister. Well, I'll tell you, like I was with her in Budapest. I'm Hawkeye. I'm that guy, and I didn't cause her death. I just was trying to kill myself, but she killed herself first.
yeah.
it's gonna be an easy explanation, but it'll probably lead up to the Hawkeye series. But I'm just like,
Yeah,
think
it's interesting because you think because he's been on the news, he's Hawkeye,
yeah,
like, and people know that he's an Avenger.
hmm
That like you're right, it would be a simple explanation.
right,
Um, I don't know. I was thinking, like how at the beginning she asked about like what kind of things make the hole in the wall, and she said,
hmm
"Oh, those are arrows,"
yeah,
or something like that. I was thinking maybe for some reason she's gonna think that like they didn't really have a great relationship. They fought a lot, and that's why
mhm.
there's those arrows in there because they actually got into a fight or something like that, and like convince herself that they actually weren't as great friends as they thought they were.
But then
But
we see the air duct part.
then yeah, you're right. We see the air duct part, and we see them fighting on the news. He has a kid named after her,
Yeah.
so I don't know. It does prompt a good line of questioning for the Hawkeye
Mhm.
show, though. I think.
It also brings to question like what is Contessa's like role? Like what is she? Is she kind of like a new Hydra? Is she gonna be the Madam Hydra character that we know she is in the comics?
Yeah.
Is she trying to do this new organization, recruiting people like Elena, like US agent, to be a part of this like new task force for herself, working for her own will? Because like obviously it doesn't seem like she's doing anything good. We didn't know her
No.
motivations in Falcon and Winter Soldier. We know her motivations now are not intended to be good. Like she's trying to go against the Avengers, at least the ones that you can be able to kill off the beaten path. Um,
The ones that are left, I guess, right?
yeah. So I don't know what her motivations are. Obviously they're malevolent in nature, but I don't know why she's doing it. I feel like it would be really stupid to try and kill Hawkeye since he's an Avenger, and I think the Avengers would come in. And it's kind of like I remember the scene in the movie where like, if you kill off one of the Avengers, guess who's gonna come? The rest of the Avengers, and they're going to avenge your death. So I feel
Mhm.
like it's kind of a stupid move to try and kill Hawkeye.
But the only thing is the Avengers aren't really a group anymore. Like the new Avengers haven't formed in a sense. Like
Yeah.
that like the main Avengers that people I think would associate, like uh Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor
Mhm.
are gone.
Well, you still have like new Captain America, you have Falcon, you have
You do.
Hulk, you have Winter Soldier, you have like Spider-Man, you have Dutch, you have a lot of people, I feel like, who could
Yeah,
still be Avengers.
I
Not
guess.
as a group, we haven't seen any of them as a group, but I
Mhm.
feel like you could still have at least a few of them go like, we're gonna avenge for Hawkeye's death if that ever happens, which probably won't, but
Yeah. I mean it's weird because like Spider-Man is I think the most readily like callable, I guess.
yeah.
But like he's like friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, so I think he doesn't have like the reach as like Iron Man would have, where he could be like he could go over here, he could fly across country in like a day and get there. Like
Mhm.
Spider-Man doesn't seem to like he seems like just like New York's hero in a way, even though he does go other places.
Right.
And then Doctor Strange, he's kind of like his own thing. He doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily get involved in normal human uh grievances.
Yeah.
He'll come in with the supernatural stuff. So like,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's
They
weird.
still have a lot of
We, s-
earthly.
we still have Falcon, right? And Bucky, but she has U.S. agent dealing with them, I guess. And we
Yeah,
actually we actually don't know if this happens before Falcon and Winter Soldier or not.
yeah. It's around the same time because it's within 6 months of the time. Because remember, 6 months is when Falcon and Winter Soldier happens, and this is
Mhm.
probably within that time, or at least somewhat after.
Yeah, I don't know, but we really get to see her scope though. Like she isn't just like some random person who's trying to recruit this one person. She has like
A whole
probably has a
network.
yeah probably has like a network or something. So that's gonna be interesting.
It is going to be interesting seeing. So I actually thought about this as well. That like there's going to be two sets of villains in the next phase. It's going to be the earthly villains comprising of Contessa, and there's gonna be like the out of this world bigger ones like Thanos was. Like, maybe it's gonna be Kang, maybe it's gonna be, Galactus, somebody like that
Something.
is
Mhm.
going to be like And I think that's what's going to be introduced in like Loki and in this. We see that Contessa may be the one for the earthly villains. We can see this one is going to be maybe somebody else for like Loki and all the supernatural multiversal stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
One more thing before we wrap this up. The shield that Taskmaster was using, do you think that that was vibranium?
That's a good question.
Because I feel like it is, because it didn't behave the same way. It obviously could deflect bullets
You
in the
think it
same way
was or
vibranium could.
was it?
It could. It was.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
And also, if you may remember, like Taskmaster like threw the shield and it like went like, and then it went just straight. So it obviously behaved differently from the normal laws of physics.
Uh-huh.
So it made me
Spider-Man.
to believe that it was vibranium.
The one thing I didn't notice, did it have the characteristic sound of vibranium though?
Mm-hmm.
Did it? It kind of did, but it didn't sound exactly like it.
Yeah.
It sounded like off a little bit. So yeah, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure.
Because we obviously know it's not like the Captain America shield that U.S. Agent has. It's not
No.
like a replica. It's
Yeah.
like it's a strong metal.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question because the only people who have vibranium outside of Wakanda are Falcon. Actually, it's just Falcon right now. I was gonna say in Captain America, but Falcon is Captain America.
So maybe it could be like something that was like black market deals where like, somebody like Claw brought all this vibranium to like Russia or the Soviet Union and was able to like melt it down and make it into a shield.
Do you think I can't think of his name. The dang it, the Russian version of Captain America. He had a shield.
Yeah.
Do you think it was like he had a vibranium shield back in the day, and this is just that shield repurposed?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Could
It
potentially
didn't look
be.
as big as Captain America's shield.
Yeah, it was a little bit smaller.
Mhm.
And it kind of shows like, Captain America is the bigger guy and like Alexi's Red Guardian's like smaller.
Oh.
Similar but smaller.
Overall, though, it was a good movie, I think.
So why don't we get into the ratings of this movie? What are your overall thoughts on it, and what do you rate it out of a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say it's a good 8.
An 8.
I think. I know you're gonna say 9. I'm pretty sure. I saw your
Wow, you
Instagram
got it
story.
on right in the head. I was gonna say 9.
I saw your Instagram story.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I should have taken credit for it. I'm a mind reader.
Whatever.
No, yeah. I would say an 8 because it was good, but I know other people will rate it higher probably, but there was some scenes that made me very uncomfortable in it, so that's the only reason why I rate it a little bit lower.
Well, that's because you're a very innocent person. You're very pure, so I'm not surprised.
It wasn't as wholesome. I feel like the fight sequences and stuff. I feel like were a little bit more uh intense, I guess, than a normal old-fashioned Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it was like more of a darker tone, especially in the beginning part. It was a
Yeah.
little bit more dark.
Yeah, I agree.
But it made the movie a little bit better. So
It fit the movie definitely.
yeah.
So no, nothing taken away from that.
Yeah.
It was a well done movie.
I'm giving it a 9 because it's not Endgame. Endgame is the perfect 10.
Yeah.
I give it a 9 because, and I don't think it's because of the bias that we haven't seen a Marvel movie in 2 years. I just think that it was a really well done movie with really good character development, really good plot development, really good exploration into like the past of all these characters. Except for Taskmaster. Taskmaster wasn't really like broadened, and we probably can see her later on. I'm gonna guess. But like overall, really good movie. I feel like the atmosphere just made it a lot better. So maybe after a few rewatchings, I'll be like bringing it down a little bit. I don't know. But for right now, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 just because like I feel like this was a really good movie, really good solid start to the next phase.
I agree. It was very, very well done.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that was our final word too.
Not necessarily, because remember,
Oh.
I still have comic book.
That's right. We have a variation on Rob's comic books this time because this is a special episode.
Yes.
And it's not really a comic book that Rob went out and bought.
No.
It's the collector's comic book from seeing the movie in IMAX.
Yep. So
Let's see it. The worst thing
here
is I
it
can't really see it that well because my camera brightness is down. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's the Imax poster, I believe.
Oh. Did you read it?
Nope.
Are you gonna?
Maybe. And I kind of like how so this is the first appearance of Black Widow. I'm gonna move this out of the way. So we have the first appearance of Black Widow right here, and then we have the Black Widow movie.
Which one looks more realistic?
Obviously, this one.
No, I know.
This one's obviously different.
Mm.
But I
It's
just
very
like
cool.
that I can have these two together.
It's kind of surreal.
From one to the other.
Yeah. It's funny.
I know that's like a little bit of me showing off, but I don't mind.
You gotta show off something. If you don't show, I'm not gonna finish that. I don't know how to finish.
But yeah, they just had these in a box, and I saw some people not taking it. Take one.
Some people didn't. How long does this last? Was it opening day or is it?
It's from the 8th to the 10th. So
okay, on the 11th, I'm gonna go and ask.
Probably
I
won't
saw
be able
this.
to get the episode out on time, but I'll be go out and get the comic books.
I'm gonna be I saw the movie this weekend. I saw it on Thursday. I just didn't see it in IMAX because you have extra. Probably just gonna throw them away.
Right.
Can I have them? All of them?
I should have gotten an
The rest
extra
of them?
for you, but unfortunately,
It's
I can only
okay.
grab 2 because of me and my friend. So
Yeah. No worries because I'd rather wait until the promotion is done just in case, just to make sure everyone who actually deserves them gets them,
mhm.
you know? And then if there's extra, I'll weasel my way in.
You should have enough.
I hope so. I feel, yeah, if you didn't see everyone grabbing them, then they're gonna probably have. I hope. Oh, I gotta tell this one story really quick. It's not about the movie, but it's
Okay.
about the experience of going into the theater. So I went to an AMC, and I was in the theater. So show the phone the barcode to say we have the tickets,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, let's do this. And I went to go walk and find the theater, and I started walking, and the lady who scanned it, she's like, yeah, the theater's right there, and I was like, oh, it was the first theater on my right, and I was like, oh, okay. And I walk in, I'm like, oh, this isn't a great start. And when I was walking up the stairs, I almost fell backwards, and I'm like, this is not a good start. I'm like, okay, Billy, calm down,
Mhm.
take a deep breath.
He has to run up there.
Yeah, it was just it was very funny.
Yeah.
uh,
Luckily for me, when I got my thing scanned, it was luckily the first theater on the right because it's the IMAX theater, and it literally tells you what theater you're in. That's it for our review. You've heard our review. I'm going to hope that this comes out as soon as possible so that everybody who wants to hear our thoughts can hear it. This is a nice special episode, so no actual comic book showings, no other things. It's just a nice little special episode we're going to do probably for every single movie that we're going to do for Marvel, where we're going to talk about the movie, and I hope this is going to be a continued series.
yeah, I look forward to it.
So please hit that subscription button if you already haven't done that. Hit the like button because you'll like the movie and you'll like this video.
Yeah.
And until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.